Hallelujah. The psalmist David in Psalms 119 said this, Thy word is true from the beginning, and every one of thy righteous judgments endures forever. True from the beginning. You know, there's never been a book like this book, folks. I saw somewhere some lady had posted this week, and I understood what she meant. There's things in our life that we always have to make decisions about, but she said this, she said, life doesn't come with a manual. And I thought, oh yeah, it does too. Life came with a manual. We just chose not to go by the manual. Is the reason we got in the shape we're in. But folks, His word, the word that was inspired by God, the psalmist David said, is true from the beginning. And you know, this book, folks, gives us everything about life in general. Genesis is our history. It tells us how we got here, how we got started, and it's always kind of surprising to me. Somebody that calls himself scientist can come out with anything, and people will grab it up just like it's true. You know, we 100 million years old. People say, "Oh yeah, the Earth's 100 million years old." There's no way we could prove that one way or the other. I'm not arguing how old the Earth is. But what I'm saying is it's so easy to take what man has put out there just on face value, but yet we'll throw this book away. But this book, folks, has stood all this time, and it's probably been the most attacked book ever written, and it stands. It stands because the God that inspired it, folks, stands and lives forever. And tonight He is on the throne, and He has power to see that His word is fulfilled. And just this week, it happened a few months ago, but they came out with a story just this week, and shows you how the pieces are coming together in fulfillment of prophecy. Did y'all see where the Pope and I think they called him the Mutaf, he's the head man over the Sunni religion, Sunni Islam, had signed a compact of agreement between the Catholics and the Muslim religion, that they would work together as one. Sounds real good. Yeah. But except the Islamic religion itself teaches that all other religions must be dominated. But you know, on the face it sounds good, but when we read the prophecies, we find out in the end time that there is a coming together of world religions, folks, and what this is the foundation being laid. And they met and said that they was going to cooperate in everything to bring about world peace. Well, isn't that nice? But you can't bring about world peace by inviting the devil into your plan. That's right. The Catholic Church itself has got a whole lot of problems on its own. But you mix Islam in there with it, folks, it's not going to bring world peace, it's going to bring some more confusion. But how anybody can look at the history of Islam and say it's a peaceful religion. That's what this guy, this head that signed the agreement with Pope, said, that it would help them, get rid of this image that the media had built about Islam, that it was a bloody religion, when actually it was a religion of peace. So after 9/11, the media made it into a bloody religion. No, it didn't start with 9/11, folks.
No, it did.
It started with a man named Muhammad, who had started this religion. There was thousands killed under his reign. Folks, look, if you didn't agree with Muhammad, they chopped your head off, and they still do. Is all Muslims terrorists? No. But hey, they believe that. Last week we talked about those kids. I didn't remember where it was from. It was in Connecticut. They weren't supposed to get out, where those children in grade school children. And they was teaching them to saying about chopping off the infidel's head. Did any of y'all see that?
In Philadelphia, wasn't it?
Yeah, Philadelphia. This is in America, folks. Of course, they just passed it off, and they said, "Oh, that was a mistake. That was just an overlook." That ain't a mistake. Teaching kids to chop off people's heads, even teaching them that song. It's not a mistake. And if you read the Quran, folks, that's what they teach. That you make war with the infidel until there's only Islam remains. But we see in the 13th chapter of Revelation where that there is a false prophet that arises. There's going to be, and look, this agreement too, they said they was going to pressure the world government to make sure that everybody was treated fairly and that everybody had a chance to prosper. No, I'll agree, folks, that everybody ought to have the same chance to work, but you can't guarantee folks prosperity unless you're just going to give it to some people. That's called communism, when you take from the working people and give to those that won't work. But this pact, this agreement was supposed to help bring together the world religions. And of course we've had to push for globalization now for years. And like I say, what we're seeing is just the foundations being laid. This is not the end result, but the beginning. But the Bible laid all this out to start with, folks. And we're just seeing it happening in our time. And Jesus, when he talked about the signs of the time, he said, when you see all these things begin to come to pass, know that his coming is even at the doors. You see, the word all has to be fulfilled, because if any of it's not fulfilled, it means God made a mistake, and he ain't made one, folks. In the 13th chapter of Revelation, I believe is where we at, verse 11, it says, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. In other words, he looked, Jesus is portrayed as a lamb. He looked like he was good, but he was speaking as the dragon. And he exercised the power of the first beast, which is the political and economic system that will come together, and cause the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doth great wonders, and he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth, in the sight of men. Now this ain't happened yet, folks, but you can look for it. It will happen. There'll be some miracles coming out of this joined together religion. You know, Pope Paul tried to bring the religions of the world together when he was here. I remember when he went over to Africa and met with a voodoo priest and told them that there was many ways to God, you know. But this idea that you can get to God without changing and following his ways is as old as the first lie the devil told. Folks, you cannot come to God on your way, in your way. You come to God on his. But he says this, he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying that to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he caused all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of the name. Now, this could not have happened, folks, until where we're living at now, because we didn't have the technology to mark everybody in the world. But the computer age, folks, we have the technology to do exactly that. Yeah. So what we're seeing is all the foundations being laid at one time, and there will be a one world religion, and it's a religion. It's not the gospel. It's a religion, and there'll be a one world political and economic system. And folks, you can look at the markets now to show how it shows you how tight we already connected. You know, China and Trump is arguing over the trade deals, and the stock markets is just dropping like a rock. Folks just just trying to figure out what's going to happen here. If one economy goes down, the whole world's economy is affected. And we are the strongest economy right now in the world. But folks, we're connected to everybody else. If their economy goes down, ours will too. And so there's going to come a crash, folks. I don't know how many trillions of dollars we're in debt right now, but a lot, and the world's in debt. And sooner or later, folks, that financial system has got to crash. As an individual, ain't no way that you could run a household the way the government is running the governments now. Hey, spend 10 times more than you make. Hey, after a while, folks quit giving you credit. But when I saw it yesterday, where the Pope had signed that, That's the first thing I thought of. Okay, another foundation being laid. Another foundation. Look, the gospel of Jesus Christ cannot, let me just say this out front, the gospel of Christ cannot join itself with any other religion, because the gospel is not a religion. It's the truth of God. And the Bible didn't tell us to join with whatever the world had going on. It said to come out from among them, not join ourselves with them. We got things all kind of backwards, haven't we? Yeah, but there's a big push on now. And, we saw again, it's so sad. Again, this week we had the shooting out in Colorado, the school shooting. Did y'all see that? This is what, 2 in 2 weeks? But folks, and we talked here a while back, we kill our babies in the womb. We sow the seed of murder and of blood, folks, and it's coming up. It's coming up. When, we sow that seed and it comes up in our street and in our schools, and what's not, our kids are being killed with drugs and gangs, and now they're going into the schools and shooting them. But the world's answer is always, take away the guns. Yeah. I was thinking today, make more laws, take away the guns, make more laws. Well, if more laws would solve this problem, let's outlaw drug dealing. Yeah. Get drugs off the streets. You want to? Looks like we would, don't it? Let's outlaw murder and let's outlaw robbery. Right. Get it all stopped. Let's make some more laws. But no, it's man's heart that needs to be changed. Nobody's saying that. Let's make laws. You cannot legislate what's in a man's heart. We need to get back to the gospel of Jesus Christ, folks, with love and respect for one another. Amen. But how can you tell tell a kid that life is precious when he sees folks marching in the street for the right to kill their own children? I told you that last week one of the Democratic senators in Alabama said, hey, let's face it, we got babies that's not wanted. We either kill them now or we kill them later. See, it's total evil, folks. He's a black senator, Democrat. But see, life has become, it's not sacred anymore, folks. And we wonder why our kids is killing each other. Hey, they see it on every hand. You can turn the TV on and see more murder and mayhem than I saw in my whole whole young life coming up. You see more of it in one night than I saw in my whole life. And see, we glorify immorality, and we glorify, we make heroes out of people that are atheists, out of folks that's just doing their own thing. And I saw this week too, y'all see this, where they're legalizing what they call magic mushrooms in Colorado? Yeah. Hallucinogenic mushrooms. Let's keep messing up our mind, folks, and wondering why we're killing each other. But this old book keeps being fulfilled. It tells us that evil men will wax worse and worse as we see these times coming up. But we got folks that's preaching, oh, it's getting better. No, it's not, folks. It's not getting better. But it's fulfilling. And there is a king coming, and he's coming right on time. But as we see these foundations being laid, folks, we need to know that, hey, we don't have the time that we used to have to get this thing done. We need to tell folks about Jesus. We need to live before them so they can see an example. I think that's a lot of our problems too. We don't have as many examples of folks living before our kids as we used to have. When I was going to school, and some of y'all probably too, first thing we did in the morning, they said the Pledge of Allegiance, and they read the Bible. That was it.
And had prayer.
And we had prayer. You know how many school shootings we had in those days? None. And teenage boys would drive up with their rifles in their gun racks in their truck. Nobody thought they were fixing to shoot nobody because they wouldn't. No. You know why? Because, number one, they'd been taught at home that life was precious, taught how to behave themselves, and then when they got to school, they was taught at school. But now we have turned our back on everything God, and we wonder what's going wrong, what's going on. But see, this like I said, the Pope signing the covenant with the Islamic nation is just another step in the direction of the soon coming of the Lord. See, we've got to, whether we like it or not, we have come to the place now. If you throw the name of Jesus in there, so many folks will just go right along with it. Well, they're Christian. No, Christian means a follower of Christ.
Yes.
And unless we're followers of Christ, just because we throw the name of Jesus in doesn't make us Christian, folks. And there can be no Christianity, just say it like it is, there can be no Christianity that embraces a religion that was spawned by a demon.
Right.
It can't.
No.
Can't. Of course, the Catholics themselves has had a history of some pretty violent stuff themselves. But that's the largest what is called Christian denomination in the world is the Catholics today. But the Revelation gives us our future, folks. Genesis gave us our history. The Revelation gives us our future. But in all this stuff that Revelation tells, and all of it that we're seeing coming together, there are some good parts for those that love the Lord. And make no mistake about it, there's coming a time when there's a great separation between those that love Jesus and those that don't is coming. A great separation. And over in the 4th chapter of Revelation, John was out on the island of Patmos. They didn't know what to do with old John. John was teaching Jesus, and they tried everything, and John wouldn't hush. So they threw him out on this rock island out in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. It was a prison island. Thought they'd hushed old John up, but God gave him a revelation out on that island of the future of the church. I want us to read that too, Revelation 4. And after this I looked, and behold, the door was open in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was, I want you to notice was what this says. It was as a trumpet talking. In other words, John heard a trumpet sound, which said, "Come up hither." This is the future, folks. It's going to happen. And I will show the things which must be hereafter. And immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat up on the throne. One day there's going to be a trumpet sound, folks. And the saved by the grace of Jesus is going to meet him. That trumpet sound is going to say the same thing to us too. Come up here. And guess what? When God says come up here, ain't no way of staying here. If you're connected to him, that same Spirit, that quick, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, will be from here to there. And he that sat was to look upon like a jasper and a sardine stone, and there was a rainbow around about the throne, and inside it like unto the emerald. And here's the last time you see the church on earth, verse 4. It's not on earth here. It's already gone. Round about the throne were 24 seats, and upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment, and they had on their heads crowns of gold. Did you know that Jesus has promised us that we would reign with him?
That's right.
It's the promise to the church. It's not the promise to the world, but to the church. And who is the church? The born again people of Christ. And you can have your name on the church books, but unless you're born again, you're not in God's church. Period. But the first 3 chapters he wrote to the church, which was on earth at that time. The church is in Asia, and they were actual churches there, but they were representative of the whole church age. But in that chapter 4, after that, you don't see the church on earth again until it comes back with Jesus. But John saw the church already there. So, folks, it's a done deal. It's not, well, I don't know what's going to happen now, and so I hope I'm going to make it. And I hear folks say that silly stuff. Boy, I hope I'm going to make it. Well, if you're trying to make it on your own, you ain't. But you cannot help but make it if you put your trust in Jesus. Hey, he's already there.
That's right.
And John saw the church already there. So this is not a, or maybe so, it's not a hope so. This is a done deal. And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunders and voices that were 7 lamps in the burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto a crystal. In the midst of the throne and round about the throne were 4 beasts full of eyes before and behind. This is some odd looking creatures here, ain't they? The first beast was like a lion, the second beast like a calf, and the third beast had the face of a man, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. He got more beasts than a zoo. And the 4 beasts had each of them 6 wings about him, and were full of eyes within and the rest, and they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was, which is, and which is to come. But these beasts are intelligent creatures. These are not like we see dogs and horses. These beasts are intelligent creatures, and you know they are because they're praising God day and night. And hey, we'll see all this one day, folks, if we follow on to know the Lord. But see, after that, again, we're talking about this is the future. After the church is gone, chapter 6 starts talking about opening the judgment seals and judgment being poured out. And judgment only happens, folks, when harvest is full.
That's right.
Judgment does not accidentally happen. It happens when harvest is full. And I'm going to tell you, it's like we talked about a while ago about sowing the seed of murder, of blood, and it comes up blood. When we sow the seed of rebellion against God, we are building a harvest, folks, that must come. It's just that simple. You sow the seeds, and sooner or later the harvest comes. That's the way it works. You know, Jesus taught that real emphatically through his whole gospel. Whatsoever things a man soweth, that shall he also reap. And what we're doing, we're sowing the seed of the judgments that we see that's opened here in chapter 6. But remember, before the first judgment seal is opened, the church is already seated in heaven. I'm for that. Because, and again, you hear a lot of it. Don't let anybody tell you, folks, that you've got to face the judgment of God. Jesus faced the judgment for you if you're born again.
That's right.
God ain't mad at you anymore. Jesus took our trial, took our sins, and nailed them on that cross. And when God looks at you, he sees what Jesus has done. I thank God that I ain't got to work my way into heaven, or that I ain't got to be good enough, but that he was good enough.
Right.
Yeah, I try to please him because I'm saved, not to be saved.
Right.
But again, we got so many folks. You ever heard Christians, and it breaks my heart to hear Christians say, well, I hope I'm saved. Folks, you can know you're saved if you put your trust in Jesus, because he has already paid the penalty for your sins. That makes it not yours. He paid for it. And he's coming back for a church without spot, wrinkle, or blemish. And like I say, we see the foundations of all these things being laid. He opened that first seal, and I saw when the Lamb, and I want you to notice this, it's Jesus, opened one of the seals, and I heard as if it was a noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, come and see. And these are the judgment seals being opened. And I saw and behold a white horse, and he that sat on him, 6 and 2, and he that sat on him had a bow and a crown, and was given him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. Now I want you to notice white is always the symbol of purity. But so deceptive is this man. This is the Antichrist, the judgment where the Antichrist comes forth. And so deceptive is he that John saw him on a white horse, the color of purity, and the white horse is also a symbol of conquering. But he didn't say he had an arrow, he said he had a bow. In other words, he's got the potential of great war power, but he comes as a man of peace. And folks, right now the world is desperate for peace. But we continually have war, and we continually have murder and crime and mayhem. But when this man comes, and this is what's going to, we need to know who we are in Jesus. This man is going to look like the answer, not the problem. He's going to look like the answer to the world's problems. And if tonight he showed up, I'm afraid there's a lot of folks that has been in church half their life would fall in line with him, because he's going to look so appealing, and he's going to have such. His speech is going to sound so good, folks. He's going to be promising prosperity and peace, and worse than that, for a little while he's going to be able to bring it forth. It was Daniel, I believe, that said, craft would prosper in his hand. In other words, he would cause things to look like it's really looking up, and folks will follow him, because actually he will be what the world's desiring now. He will be a man who could promise them to supply their needs, and they don't have to change. Right. The biggest, because he will look like Well, he'll make a covenant with them. 7 years. But he'll break it within 3.5 years. But he'll make that covenant with them. That's some smooth talking. And it also tells me that he's got to have some kind of a Jewish background. Daniel, talked about that, when he's talking about all these end time government, that this guy will come out of the restored Roman Empire, which is the European Union. But let me tell you something, folks. This nation was once a part. I mean, it was founded by people that came out of that old Roman Empire. We never was part of the old Roman Empire, but the people that founded us was people of that old Roman Empire. But this guy's got to have some Jewish background. Daniel said that he would not regard the God of his fathers, which is absolutely a Jewish saying, because the Gentiles had many gods. So he would not regard the God of his fathers. What does that tell you? That tells you, hey, he's after a strange God, a made-up God. And like I say, we just saw that foundation being laid. A strange God. He would not regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women. And you don't hear folks say that either, but folks, he'll be funny as a $3 bill and the world will love him. See, we got a guy running for president now that's a homosexual. Everybody, we're going along with homosexuality. And don't get me wrong, folks. Homosexuality is a sin. It'll send you to hell. It's no greater sin or lesser sin. And any other sin, it'll still send you to hell. But we have been taught to embrace that sin. It's all right. It's just a, what do they call it?
Alternate lifestyle.
Alternate lifestyle. It is an alternate lifestyle. Daniel said he wouldn't regard, the desire of women, and he would follow after a strange God. Folks, he will know how to deal with the Islamic people, and he'll know how to deal with the Jews. But if you look back, the Islamic people came and the Jewish people came out of the same line of people. I mean, it was Esau and Isaac were brothers, folks. Out of Isaac came the Jewish foundation. Out of Esau and his children is what we've got now is the Arabs, is the Islamic religion has came out of that. But so they've got a similar background. And both the Islam and the Jews hold up Abraham as their father. The Islamic people claim Abraham as their father too, which like I say, it's the same people, but they're following different gods. But how simple it will be when he gets here, smooth talking, and he'll be making things work. How easy it will be for him to convince folks that he is the long-awaited Messiah for the Jews, and he is the Messiah for the Islam. Islams even say the Antichrist is their Messiah. He's the 12th Amen. And so I forgot what sect of the Islamic religion, but they say he's been in a whale over in Iraq, waiting for the time for him to come forth. Said he's been in that whale for thousands of years. I bet he'd be wrinkled when he gets here. What you want to bet? But they actually teach that the man on the white horse here is their Messiah. And he will be Messiah to a lot of folks. They will accept him because he will be a man of peace for a while. Have you noticed that where we're at now in the world, you ain't got to have much evidence. All you got to do is have a promise for folks to follow you. Our politicians tell the same lies every year and get reelected. Never do it. But they tell the same lies every year, and folks will grab a hold of the promises, even when they ain't got no evidence to back up that they're going to ever do it. Vote the same people in there for 30 years that never done anything. I saw the other day all these folks that's following Bernie Sanders. And, I ain't trying to get political, but I saw a thing where it said Bernie had been in there 38 years, and he'd been senator. And he'd got 3 bills passed, and 2 of them was naming post offices. In 38 years, he's got paid to name 2 post offices. I forgot what they said the other bill was that he introduced. But see, folks will keep voting because all you got to do is hear the promise. You ain't got to see the evidence. And so this man will fit right into where we're at today. But leave out of here in that 4th chapter of Revelation. When it comes to fulfillment, leave out of here there. Be ready to go with the King. Be ready as John was to hear that trumpet say, come up here. And I'm going to tell you, folks, we've taught it for years, and you've heard it all your life that we're living in the time of the end, and we are. But it's God's timing, and His timing is this book.
That's right.
It's this book. He don't have a calendar on the wall like our calendar with dates marked. It's His Word, and it's running out. Fulfillment is running out. When He'd opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, come and see, and there went out another horse that was red, and the power was given him to set their own, to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword. Now see, he come in a man of peace, but he can't keep peace. And I like that, given to him a great sword. And when he had opened the third seal, see, he promises peace, but war breaks out. When he'd opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, come and see, and I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Now the oil and the wine in that day and time, folks, was the sign of, you had money if you had oil and wine. It was a sign of riches. It's the government. See, this thing, what he's saying is, all right, they're rationing stuff to everybody else, but the upper echelon, don't fool with that, the upper echelon of folks. Folks, that's how socialism works. That's how communism works. The folks that's running it is rich. The folks that's like me and you that's out here working, they're giving them what they want them to have. Measuring it out. Balances, that's what balances does, giving everybody equal. Let's make everybody equal. Do you see that spirit working in America today? Let's have equal pay. Let's pay the gardener the same thing we pay the doctor.
Yeah.
Let's see how long we have doctors, folks. But see, all that sounds good. Let's have equal pay. If you're doing the same job, I'm for equal pay. But folks,
Right.
that don't work. That doesn't work to pay the gardener the same thing you're paying the doctor. Because after a while, you got all gardeners and no doctors. Because why would you go and spend all your time to learn a trade when you're going to get paid the same thing? But this is what this is all about. The top echelon won't be touched. And folks, right now, in our government and the governments across the world, those that's governing are multimillionaires.
Yeah.
And people that's under that government are struggling to survive, most of them. And what gets me is I hear the politicians, they're talking about, oh, we're going to tax the rich, and they are the rich. Do you think they're going to tax themselves? Not them. Let's tax everybody else. But war breaks out, and it's given to him a great sword, and that they should kill one another. What does that sound like? You got to understand where we're at here. We're reading where we're at. The judgments hadn't been opened. But who is it that's killing their own self now? Islam don't mind killing their own kids. They'll strap a bomb on their children and send them to kill the Jews, folks. And right now they're threatening war again with Israel. And I saw an article the other day that talked about, Ezekiel 38 talks about a time when Russia and Turkey and Iran and all of them marched into Israel to destroy Israel. And they said, the article said, what would make these countries today want to declare war against Israel? I tell you what will make them want to declare war against Israel, because they're trying, just like America, they're trying to appease a religious people that can't be appeased. Look, Islam got a bunch of oil in them, and most nations need oil. So to appease them, and they're coming. Look, Ezekiel already saw these armies coming. They're coming. And Turkey, what makes it, again, show us where we're at in time. Turkey just seated its first Islamic government in many, many years, about 10 years ago. They become Islamic again. And so here we go, the foundation being laid. And one day they will move into Israel, folks, to take her back. And what you hear from so many people in America is that they call Israel the occupier. They're occupying Arab land. I'm sorry, but the man that made the land gave it to them. I don't see a stronger land deed than a land deed from the man that made the land. That's just me. The Antichrist, and the world's getting set up for him, and after he gets there as a man of peace, war will break out. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see that I hurt not the oil and the wine. We was talking about the balances. But I saw a fellow that was comparing that today, and he said that would be like a loaf of bread for $10 in our time. But what we're seeing in this now, this is a worldwide thing, but you see the whole world right now is and they're giving Trump fits for counseling some money of the environmental stuff, and we got Cortez wanting a new Green Deal, and most of our economists say it would absolutely bankrupt the world's economy. But they're scaring people into believing if they don't do it, we're all going to die. So immediately it would stop the gasoline business, it would stop the cattle farmers, it would stop the chicken farmers. So you would have famine. What if tomorrow nobody was raising pigs, cows, chickens, no animals for meat? This is what they're pushing, people. This is what's being pushed even as we talk, to save the planet. You know, you get folks afraid that if we don't do this, we're all going to die. You get otherwise, people who are otherwise smart going along with you. And you got folks now, you know, they just give Donald Trump a hard time for pulling out of that, what was it? They had a agreement with several nations to environmental agreement, put on regulations to stop the smog and stuff. Hey, I don't know anybody that don't want clean air, do you? I like clean air. It smells funny, but I like it. But the thing about that is, folks, you can't stop life and saying, we're going to save life by doing this. Hey, but this is what's happening, and this is what's coming. You know, where the government can control, they even control rainwater. Some places you can't even catch rainwater without being arrested. So when the government controls everything, folks, and begins to dole out what they want you to have, then we're in trouble. And this is what's coming. It's what's coming. When he opened the fourth seal, I heard a voice say, the fourth beast saying, Come. And behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given to them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword, that's war, with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. Now, they're opening all these seals, and the judgment is being poured out. Hey, you don't want to be here when this starts happening, folks. And a lot of folks that, got the John Wayne syndrome. Oh, I'll get saved during the tribulation. No, if you done got to the place now where you won't listen to God now, and you think you're going to listen to God when it gets to where you can't buy or sell unless you listen to this man? Come on, folks. But it's happening, and it's coming, and we've got the technology to do it now. And all the players are in place, and like I said, what's not in place is you can see it building up. There is a king coming. And folks will say, well, he's been gone 2,000 years and he's not back. Do you realize that he laid all that out right here in this word if you get in there and study? Even there's types and shadows, even the cross. He died on that cross, and the minute he died, your sins was paid for. He could have stepped off that cross right then, and salvation would still been paid for. But he was gone 2 days, and back the third. You ever notice that? He was in that grave for 3 days and nights, but on that third day, he was back. He come out when they went down there early on that third day. On the morning of the third day, the tomb was empty, which was a type to show. He's been gone 2 days now, folks. We're in the third. And all through the Bible, it fits that same pattern. The same pattern. Over in Genesis, we talked about a while ago, is our history. The Lord said that his spirit, we overlook a lot of these things, but the Lord said his spirit would not always strive with man. That's sad to think about. There's coming a time when God said, that's it. I'm not striving with man anymore. And it said his days should be 120 years. And folks come along and say, God said man couldn't live over 120 years. No, he didn't. He's talking about the age of man, not a single man. Yet his days, mankind's days, should be 120 years. That's God's time and God's years. And he set these feasts up, and we've studied those feasts before. We can't get into a lot of that tonight. But the Jewish feast was called the appointments of the Lord. And Jesus fulfilled the first 4 when he was here. He was our Passover lamb. He was our first fruits from the dead. You know, the Pentecost came and the Spirit came, but what we got left now is the 3. But after those 7 feasts, there was another feast called Jubilee. If you read about Jubilee feast was every 50 years. And all the debt was canceled. All the people went back home. Everything that was returned to them that they had lost, people had took, they went back home and had a great, a great big celebration, a Jubilee. Those Jubilee years was once every 50 years they had a Jubilee year. If you count 120 years by 50, you're going to get 6,000 years, folks. And what he's saying, about 6,000 years it's going to be. And we don't know where that started exactly, counting man's timing. But we know that we're there. We're coming close to that timing because Jesus has been gone 2 days. You know, Hosea said, after 2 days he will revive us, and the 3rd day he will raise us up. That's pretty plain. We're in that 3rd day, folks, and the raising up is coming. Hang on to Jesus. Don't let the devil tell you that, hey, this thing's not working. It is working. We're just not seeing. We're not seeing it with a natural eye. People's not seeing with a natural eye what's going on around them. The Bible tells us that in the last days scoffers will come saying, where's the promise of its coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of time. All things are not continuing, but man has been blinded. We're blinded to a lot of the things that's happening. Like I said, we see this covenant sign, and I wonder how many people in the church sees any significance in it at all. Because we're not taught these things. We're just not taught these things. We're not. People want to teach I call it a safe religion. But if you want to teach a safe religion, get in the Word and teach what it says. Because you can bet that it's going to prove itself. We're not looking for self-exaltation, but just preach what the Word says. Get in the Word and just tell folks what the Word says. And because you can rely on it, because it's God that's going to see that it's going to happen. And when we see that things fulfilling, we need to let folks know where we're at. And he said, well, I'm saved anyway. That's good. But if there's a difference in knowing, if you knew this barn was going to burn down one day, you wouldn't be too excited. But if you know this barn is afire now, hey, it'd cause some movement, wouldn't it?
That's right.
And that's what prophecy does. He gave us these prophecies so that we would know where we're at, so that we would get excited enough to get this work finished. And somebody's going to finish it, folks. It doesn't have to be me, and it doesn't have to be you. Somebody's going to finish it. But I want to do my part. I don't want no rock crying out on my behalf. What about you? I want my rock to keep his mouth shut. I'll do the praising myself. But Revelation is the future of mankind. Get in there and read it and study it. Understand. Get your understanding. Now, most of it is symbolic. Get your understanding of what the symbols mean. And it was wrote symbolically because of this. The Roman Empire at that time, the Roman government was persecuting the Christians, and John didn't want to write something that the Romans could just pick up and say, oh yeah, this is what he's talking about right here. And it was implicating the Roman Empire, and it would cause the Christians more problem. So he wrote it symbolically. The Jews understood the symbols, folks.
Yes.
And that's who he wrote to those churches. They understood the symbols. They knew what John was talking about, but the common man didn't know. And still, we read it like it's a hidden book. But the Bible says it's the revelation of Jesus Christ. Did you ever read, when reading Revelation, you see it's the revelation? It's the revealing of Jesus Christ. It's Jesus saying these things, folks. And I'm telling you what, do. It says that you'll be blessed if you read it and understand it. Do it. Blessed. So we need to understand what our past was, what our history was, and we get that from Genesis and the prophecies and the law. But the future is in Revelation. Now, Jesus told us what would be happening in the last days. And Revelation and Daniel is almost the same books written differently, laid out a little differently, but Daniel saw the same thing that John the Revelator saw. And it all fits together. Daniel saw the great world empires as they came up singularly, one at a time. John saw them as they was together. And when we say one world government, I'm not talking about that America's going to cease to be, Mexico's going to cease to be, or Russia's going to cease to be. I'm talking about the one world government will be a one world agreement. And all that will have to happen, folks, for this to fall into place right now, is somebody to mash that nuclear button.
Yes.
I guarantee you, if nuclear war broke out, there'd be such an outcry. I don't care where it would be at. It don't even have to be in America. It'd be such an outcry for this to never happen again that it would force the governments of the world to come together in a peace agreement, together in a political agreement, in an economic agreement. Like I say, we're already linked economically because stock markets anywhere in the world can bumble, and the whole world stock markets, bumble because we're already linked. Soon we will be linked politically, and soon we will be linked the whole world religiously, and soon there will a king come to take his out of here. When there's no place left on earth for the church, Christ has got a place ready. And I'm going to tell you, you don't see much about it in the mainstream media, but Christians are being persecuted all over the world. I saw last week where someplace in Africa where they went in and killed a pastor and a bunch of his members in the church, the Islamic folk. Didn't see it on mainstream media, saw it on Drudge Report. But because Christians, the world don't like you folks. And you know why it don't like you? Because Jesus said they hate the light. Darkness hates the light. So, and the world is getting increasingly dangerous for Christian people across the world. And when there's no place left for the church on earth, we're gone. So tell folks that Jesus loves them. Tell folks that there is a way out of this mess. I saw a lady today, and she was talking about the shooters that killed those school kids. They was kids too. One of them was a transgender kid, and she said, "Oh, they were not thugs. They were just people with their heart broke." And I told her, I said, "Hey, there's a lot of hurting folks in this world, but they don't go out and kill folks. This is nothing but a demonic possession, folks. And it's because we have allowed this booger to get a foothold in this nation. We allowed it. And it comes right back to what the church allows. And the church people will vote folks into office that stands totally against what Jesus taught. Folks, this should not be. We should vote as close to the principle of Christ as we can find in our leaders. And you'd see a change, but folks ain't going to do it. They vote for promises that's never kept. Promises that's never kept. Let's vote for the King. He's coming. But we get folks that's so far off, again. But if the people, we could demand, we could set forth folks to run, but we ain't got time to do that. We're just going to vote for whatever comes along. Christians vote for people who are all for killing babies in the womb. Yeah, I saw a thing on Facebook a while back, and it said, we stand for more than abortion. And I put, when the lady put that on there, I said, well, that's enough to settle it for me. Yeah. If you're talking about killing babies, I don't care what else you stand for. Me and you ain't on the same page. We gone. That other stuff don't mean nothing to me once you said, I'm all right with killing babies. And I'm going to tell you something else too, folks. And don't let nobody fool you with this. We have lost the sanctity of life. The same people that say nothing wrong with killing babies will say nothing wrong with killing the elderly and the sick. Nothing. Hey, they stand in our way. They stand in our way. Several years ago, I forgot from what state it was, but I read an article, I want to forget it. Some senator said the elderly had a obligation to die, an obligation to get off the taxpayer's till. He's sitting in Washington, D.C. and getting rich off the taxpayer's till, but the elderly had an obligation to die. Folks, these same people, they won't mind killing you if you're in their way. Why do you think that in every shooting they say take away the guns? Make more laws. No, it's a heart problem. It ain't a gun problem, it's a heart problem. But anyway, through it all, through it all. Nothing has surprised Jesus. And I like that. Nothing has surprised him. And this word gives us a roadmap. It tells us how to live. It gives us the promises it gives us. Hey, they're coming. Stand on them. Nothing in this book, he didn't say anything just to fill up pages. Everything in there's for a reason and for a purpose. Get in this book, let's study it, let's take it to heart, let's mold our life after it and watch God work in our life. Is that all right?